So the stage was set for his anointment. There was clamour from top Congress leaders. At 20 minutes past 7 this evening, a Congress General Secretary confirmed to Times Now that Rahul Gandhi will only take over as election campaign chief and not as the prime ministerial candidate. In other words, there is no change of position for Rahul Gandhi, and the reason for this is a direct and categorical no from his mother Sonia Gandhi. Sonia Gandhi has said that her son Rahul Gandhi cannot be made the prime ministerial candidate. On this whole issue of avoiding a face-off, Arun Jaitley, leader of the opposition, my first guest on the News Hour tonight. Mr. Jaitley, you look at it the other way. You see, the Congress party has sent out a clear message that they are not going to be reactive to you, to everything that the BJP does. So, if someone declares their prime ministerial candidate, Janardhan Dwivedi says, does not mean we have to do the same.
No, it's absolutely not necessary for any party. We can't compel them to declare a prime ministerial candidate. They did not react to us, but they must react to the reality. And the reality is that it's the Congress party which for the last few years has had a build-up of Mr. Rahul Gandhi as the next prime ministerial candidate for the party. The prime minister has said so. The party functionaries have said so. He's been projected in that particular manner. And then suddenly on the eve of an announcement, you find that the party has developed cold feet. And therefore, it's for analysts now to analyze as to why this has happened.
Why do you say cold feet? The other argument could be that now Arun Jaitley can no longer blame the Congress party of dynastic rule, because had they named him prime ministerial candidate, that might have been your first line of attack.
Well, I think that's a secondary issue. I think the principal issue, and I've been saying so now almost for the last 2 months, I've repeatedly written this, the Congress is losing the will to fight. I first noticed it amongst the 4 state assembly elections, particularly in the context of Delhi. One bad meeting of Rahul Gandhi, Mrs. Gandhi did not come to campaign in Delhi, the Prime Minister did not come to campaign in Delhi, Rahul Gandhi did not come back to campaign in Delhi, and therefore Sheila Dikshit was left alone to fend for herself. Now, the Congress, it was indicated, had lost its will to fight. And I see in the run-up to the Lok Sabha election, today's decision, it may be a political calculation by them, but it certainly puts them at a psychological disadvantage. It indicates that the party is losing its will to fight. That's my first analysis or reaction as far as this is.
Mr. Jaitley, let me push you a little bit on that point. In August 2013, you delivered a lecture on India 2020 challenges ahead. And if I look at what you said, the Congress party strategy seems to be aimed at countering the kind of thinking that people like you were doing. You said, quote, next year's election will be somewhat like a presidential election, though in a parliamentary form of democracy, it is held on a party basis. People want a better leadership in comparison to the leadership of this government, and they want to show for the future. So, Mr. Arun Jaitley, the Congress party understood that. And by refusing to name Rahul Gandhi, they have blunted your attempt, because you have been consistently trying to make this about personalities, right from that speech to now, and they have blunted that attempt of yours.
Well, Britain has a parliamentary democracy, but they always have a shadow prime minister or a prime ministerial candidate of parties which is projected. The Congress can legitimately decide not to project a candidate, but irrespective of that, I think the perception is very clear who the leader of the Congress party is. And the leader of the Congress party is going to be the gentleman who will lead the campaign. Your pollsters are going to weigh him against Narendra Modi and any other candidate in the fray. And I think this decision itself to duck a contest, to duck a comparison with Narendra Modi itself may not help. Because the uneven kind of weightage which the opinion polls are indicating, the Congress may consider it as a strategy in order to avoid such a comparison. But such an avoidance itself puts it as a psychological disadvantage.
But what about Priyanka? What if Priyanka were to now come into the campaign? She's getting very active. There is talk she's going to take over, look at the media, communications, the external relations portfolio of the Congress party. Surely you are a little apprehensive at some point, and I would like to know, because Rahul takes a backseat. The option of Priyanka coming forward is very much there.
I am certainly not apprehensive, but only Mr. Arnab Goswami is contradicting his last question to me. First, you say the Congress is trying to duck this charge that they do not believe in dynasty. and then the replacement of one member of the dynasty who hasn't done very well is another member of the dynasty. Therefore, if this is what the party is all about, the party will sink or swim, it will flourish or fail with the dynasty.
Now, will a Rahul-Priyanka combination prove to be a little bit more lethal than just a Rahul alone combination?
Well, these are assets for the Congress party. It's for them to decide. As far as we are concerned, we are contesting it on our own merit, on the strength of our party organization, on the strength of our leader. Whether it's one or two, we are willing to go ahead with any form of contest.
I read your blog today, Mr. Jaitley, and if I had any doubts, I'm totally convinced right now after reading your blog that for you and the top leadership of the BJP, the big challenge which you are now fighting, preparing to fight, and perhaps, if you don't mind my saying so, you might even be threatened about, is the Aam Aadmi Party. What else explains these words of yours about the Aam Aadmi Party? And I quote, "Publicity with regard to the style of governance without any substantive governance is simply gimmickry. Responsible governance has a long-lasting impact. Gimmickry is always short-lived. Gimmickry does not leave its footprint behind. Excessive gimmickry becomes an object of ridicule. Continued gimmickry without substance invites public ridicule and anger." 6 times in 3 sentences you use the word gimmickry. Isn't this a desperate attempt by the BJP and its top leader Arun Jaitley to associate the AAP with gimmickry, Mr. Jaitley?
Well, this is what I wrote last week, and I wrote it in the context which is explained in that paragraph itself. Now, at the end of the day, Delhi is not interested, the people of Delhi are not interested as to what size of the car you are traveling in. People are not interested in what is the size of the lawn of the house you will live in. That doesn't make you morally superior or morally inferior. I live in my own house and I drive my own car. I don't use a government vehicle. But that doesn't make me in any way morally superior to any one of my colleagues. That may only be symbolism at best. That's a style of politics. It is different from what substantive decisions you take in relation to governance. And what you decide in the context of governance is that every citizen in Delhi must carry a camera, he must continue to bug his other fellow citizens, cadres must go to schools and start a vigilante group as to what schools are doing, what colleges are doing. Somebody says that you must have a regional representation for local boys in colleges in Delhi. Somebody else wants to lead a police party to conduct a raid and assume a police function. Now, this kind of politics as a substitute to substantive governance, and substantive governance in the context of Delhi is twofold. The first is, there is one Delhi which is a deprived section of the city. It needs basic amenities. There is another Delhi which is trying to become a global city. It's done well in the last few years, and therefore for any Delhi government of any party, these two challenges have to be addressed. I haven't heard a word on any of these two challenges. I am only hearing symbolism as to who travels in what vehicles and who lives in what house. And therefore, if you want publicity for only this style of politics rather than substantive governance, then to use a word gimmickry itself may be appropriate.
Mr. Jaitley, to take your own argument to play it on yourself, and I have just 2 more questions. Aren't you going more by the form and less by the content? If you look at the content, the AAP is doing what the BJP would have wanted to do had it come to power in Delhi and had Harshvardhan been Chief Minister. The BJP wanted to bring in a 30% tariff reduction in electricity. The BJP wanted to bring law and order in the city under the purview of the state government. That's exactly what the AAP wants to do. Now, just because, Mr. Jaitley, one of their ministers, which we saw in those pictures there, and we'll play it now once again, goes and does this, huge tamasha where he tries to tell a Delhi police officer, go ahead and arrest somebody because I think you should arrest that person without a warrant. Aren't you making too tall a claim? Aren't you making too tall a claim about...
No, not in the least. You see, let us be very clear about it. When you talk in terms of subsidizing, because they are talking in terms of subsidizing, as of today, I can quite live with the fact that the poorest in the city are entitled to the first subsidy. Who did the water subsidy go to? It didn't go to the people who don't have a pipeline. It didn't go to the people who go with buckets every morning wanting to collect and buy water from the tankers or from somewhere else. It went to people who have metered connections. Similarly, as far as electricity is concerned, you've increased the quantum of subsidy. At the end of the day, you have to have a long-term vision of how do you bring the power.
But why do you believe they lack a long-term vision, Mr. Jaitley? Why do you believe they lack a long-term vision?
Well,
give them some time. Give them some time. Are you in a hurry to write their epitaph?
I am certainly not at all. I would love to give them time, but I would like a response as far as substantive governance is concerned. Today they are in the news for all the wrong reasons. You have a Maoist from Chhattisgarh speaking one language. You have a supporter of the subversive element in Kashmir speaking another language. You have a market economy liberal speaking a third language. Now, what kind of a collection of people is this? Now, this is not what constitutes a coherent political party which will deliver.
So you finally, you do admit now, therefore, that this next election, because you wanted a personality contest, not us. You wanted a personality contest, not Rahul Gandhi. Therefore, you will admit, Mr. Arun Jaitley, tonight, that given your own prescription that election 2014 will be a personality contest, and I see that smile on your face, you understand what I'm saying. You admit tonight, before I let you go, that this will be Modi versus Kejriwal, rather than Modi versus Rahul,
no,
as you would have wanted some time back. Yeah.
I am not for a moment suggesting that. I think the de facto contest still remains Modi versus whoever is the challenger as far as Modi is concerned. I still think
that's Arvind Kejriwal.
I take notice of the party. It has done well. That's done well in Delhi, but I don't see an all-India presence as far as they are concerned. I see an all-India presence as far as the UPA is concerned. UPA now has twin liabilities. One is a huge anti-incumbency, an image problem, and the second is the lack of a decisive and a definitive leadership.
Well, Mr. Arun Jaitley, let's see if it builds up towards being Modi versus Kejriwal. Thank you very much for joining me on News Hour Direct tonight. Thank you. That's Arun Jaitley there.